Yes.
There's no, it's not, and they know it's wrong. Like, how you look in their eyes.
Well, because good morning, everyone. We're gonna call the Montgomery County Planning Commission monthly board meeting to order for Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. Let the record show that the Planning Commission currently has a quorum in the room with Jonathan online. Is Bob Lou online?
No.
All right, and John Ernst is excused for today. With that, I'll entertain any board comments before we get started with the agenda. Any board comments?
Good summer.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great foot.
It's very quickly over.
Bills took 2 out of 2 against the Mets.
Yep. Whoa.
I'm happy
Better
about
than the
that.
last series.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm happy. Fall baseball's in bloom. Nothing like fall baseball. Anything from you, Jonathan?
I apologize for having to attend by Zoom, but I'm glad I'm attending.
We're glad to have you. You're bigger on screen right now.
And you can, if Grace wants to sit on your lap, you can put her up there for a while.
She's not back from urgent care yet. When she is, I'll be on mute and maybe not on screen for a sec.
We always listen to the public and seriously, she's one of our most valued public attendees, so.
All right, so with that, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the board meeting minutes from our regular monthly meeting of July 9th, 2025. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and second, or any comments or corrections on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, is there any public or staff comment before we get started with our agenda?
I'll go ahead and shoot. I want to make just one introduction. We have a special guest with us today, Davy Repkasoon. Getting that last name still right. She's our new Chief Sustainability Officer for the county, 2.5 weeks in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we've been talking to her. Obviously, we have a lot of overlap and are so excited. It's a position we've long advocated for and are thrilled that it is now here. And Davy is the lucky recipient and worthwhile partner going forward. So I'm sure we'll be working with her and John's staff quite a bit. She's here just to sit in. I'm not gonna put her on the spot for anything, but with our topic leading off with the energy ordinances, that'd be a great time to introduce and see how what happens down here.
Thank you. I really am glad to meet all of you and really look forward to work with you.
Welcome. Okay, any other staff, public comment, any comment online? Rena? Okay, with that, then we'll move on to our first agenda item, which is our solar model ordinance and building energy conservation guide. And I'll start with John. How you doing, John?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Fame hasn't gotten to you?
The fame?
Yeah, video fame hasn't gotten to you?
I mean, I miss some work every once in a while, like going out to Hollywood, but I take the red eye back.
Are you getting stopped on the street? I am.
I mean, of course. I mean, we are viral sensations.
Thanks. I would just start with, I would just end with viral.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think sensation is incorporated in there.
good morning, everybody. My name is John Lesher. I am the Environmental Planning Section Manager. I am excited to be here today with, and I'm going to make Rachel stand up for a second so they know who you, with Rachel Griffith, who is the Sustainability Director in Chester County. So we are going to talk to you today about 2 of our new awesome technical assistance products that are available not only for Montgomery County, but for Chester County and the whole region, because not only are we viral sensations, we are planning sensations, and everybody will use our stuff as it should be. So these are 2 projects that were done in collaboration. I'm going to talk to you about the solar model ordinance, and then I'm going to hand it over to Rachel to talk about our building energy conservation toolkit. And then we'll be available to answer questions not only about the work that we've done, but to put, I prepped Rachel that I would put her on the spot to be able for you to have the opportunity to ask Rachel about her work as a sustainability director in Chester County, the things that they've done and things of that nature. So it's a good entree into the world that Montgomery County is moving into with the inclusion of our new Chief Sustainability Officer. So what we got, we want to talk to you about the solar model ordinance, how this came about, especially because we've already had one that we've been using. So why do we have a new one? What is different? Why is it important? Refresh your memory about why we are trying to do this and why a solar model ordinance is critical in our communities. And then some of the regulatory highlights, like what has changed, why, what we're working towards. So how we got here. We have been working with under the DVRPC solar framework. When I first started about 15 years ago, it was one of my first projects, partnering with DVRPC and a large stakeholder group. And we created what were called the renewable energy frameworks. It was solar model ordinance. It was a wind model ordinance. It was a geothermal model ordinance that was used around the region. But the times have changed. The market has changed. The technologies have changed. So we felt the need, we do need to update this. We do need to make sure that we are giving our communities the best guidance possible. This was a project that was spearheaded and done in collaboration with DVRPC. But we are the ones based on their workload and some of where they are at as an organization. We wanted to make sure that this got out in a timely manner. So we asked, they agreed, let us take ownership of it for now. We did the whole graphics design. Anastasia and the Patty's team did an amazing job of putting this together. It is available on our website, but we want others to use it. We want other counties use it. We want DVRPC eventually to kind of take it back and publicize it and have it be used regionally. So, despite everything you may hear, we have a lot of solar in Montgomery County. You know, it is something that is prevalent, and we are seeing more and more of it coming in, even in a challenging financial market. We are getting applications for large scale solar throughout the county. Yeah, not a ton. None of them have gone anywhere yet.
What's considered large scale?
That's foreshadowing. I'll get there in a second. So we do have over 4,600 systems for almost 61 megawatts generated within the county. So this is something that has been prevalent and hopefully will continue to be prevalent throughout the county.
You know what the total of energy use is in the county?
I do not. Oh, I can get back to you on that one. I gotta get back to you to see if I can find that answer. But yes, yeah. Why is it important? And I'm not gonna go into all this, but this is interesting. 2 key points here. Germany, which is a worldwide leader in solar installation, that's what it costs per kilowatt. This is what it costs in America. A little bit over like 260. We're at 520. Now the numbers are a little bit dated, but the idea is why is it such a discrepancy? Stuff costs the same. Materials are the same. It's the non-hardware costs. It's the soft costs in America, which are driving that up. Some of it, taxes, profits, overhead, things like that. But then this top chunk, we start to get into the permitting, customer acquisition times, the waits around, you know, whether it's a zoning or whether you're waiting for the inspections to happen. Those sorts of soft costs are part of the contributing factors into why solar is more expensive here than it is in other places. And I am not going to tell you that a solar model ordinance will save the world and make solar as cheap as it is in Germany, but it is a way for our communities to tackle those costs, to make development quicker, easier, while also maintaining safety. So, you know, this is why it's important to have an ordinance so a developer can come into a community and know what the rules of the game are. And then to make sure that we have a good ordinance to make sure that projects can be done well, because nothing ruins solar in a community like a bad project. You know, somebody drives in their town and says, that's ugly, or I've heard neighbors complain about that. all of a sudden, at a local planning commission, we gotta stop solar, or it's gonna be like Ned's house. You know, we have to stop that NIMBYism, and a good solar ordinance is a way to do that. So, basically, all because of me, I will take all of the credit for this. We have many communities throughout Montgomery County that have adopted a solar ordinance. All the ones in green have a solar ordinance. Some of them are more permissive than others, but we've done a pretty good job of proliferating solar ordinances. Chelsea, you look like you have a question.
Oh, I would let you finish your sentence, John. Okay,
You're important.
No, no,
I'll stop
no.
my sentence for you.
no, is that concurrent with the contracts we have?
Eric? I need you to look up.
There's communities out there that we have contracts with. but
Yeah, there are communities, there's definitely communities that we have
No,
contracts with, yes.
But are there any communities that have solar ordinances that we don't have contracts?
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
so they're doing it on their own. I wanted to see if it was our input that is pushing them over the line or not. Just,
yes. Well, I think we have reached out to every community to make them aware of the solar ordinance throughout, our time, throughout the times that from the DVRPC solar framework. So even if they aren't a contract community,
they're getting some.
They're
I just
getting-
wanted to.
and there's also market pressures.
Right, and I just wanted to see it, whenever we can judge our impact, I'd like to highlight that.
I will say, I do not have factual evidence, but I can probably guarantee that the communities that we have a contract with have a better ordinance than those without, because we've been able to work with them with a model ordinance. So I have no factual basis other than my own confidence. But
This new model, of course, opens the opportunity for those who haven't done it yet.
Right.
so interesting. What's the difference between the old solar framework that we've been using and the new model ordinance? And what we've realized is when we first did it, we did it around use, whether it's accessory use or a utility scale use. Are the electrons going to power somebody's widgets? Or are they being produced to be sold and then used in other people's widgets? And what we've realized is the key, especially for a zoning ordinance when we're talking about land use impacts, are the size of the system. We don't really have to care about where the electrons are going. That's a PICO, PUC, PPL, that's a market utility issue. Our community issue is how is this impacting the community? So the new model ordinance divides it up: small, less than 3,000, medium, 4,000 to 5 acres, and then large, 5 acres or more. And these are the ones that are almost always generating power for off-site use.
Is that the size of the solar array, or is that the size of the property that the
Size of the solar array. So that's the big shift, use-based to size-based. And then where do these go? Small scale, rooftop ground mounted, allowed by right as an accessory use in all zoning districts. We want to be permissive as possible. We want to see these done, but as long as they're done well. Medium scale, rooftop everywhere, ground mounted by right in certain districts. And I will reiterate this over and over again. It's a model, so communities can decide which districts are most appropriate, or if there is a district where they don't think ground mounted may be appropriate. And then for large scale, once again, if you can fit 6 acres of solar panels on your rooftops, go ahead, that's awesome. It doesn't have the community impact. But if it is going to be ground mounted, then it would be a conditional use or a special exemption, because you want to have those extra conversations. You want to have those extra regulations in there because of the larger impact. Big issue setback. Before, we had a long section in there about what the setbacks need to be on roofs, away from edges, on top of ridge lines, things like that. The National Fire Code now covers it. So we don't need to cover that in the ordinance. We just reference the National Fire Code. For ground mounted, it becomes a bit interesting. For the large scale, it's been recommended by industry 150-foot setback from the property line. So you can get that vegetated staggered evergreen buffer, a fence, and then space between that fence and the actual solar panels. So emergency vehicles, construction vehicles have room to navigate around and through the site. So, through industry input and, community input, the 150-foot setback is what we think is appropriate for the large scale. Lot coverage,
I don't get the 150 feet. That seems like a lot.
I thought it was a lot too. But that was actually recommended to us by those who are developing it. And I would have figured they would want less of a setback so they could fit more panels.
Yeah.
But because of the space where they want room for the vegetation, the fence, and that space between, and also I think they just don't want to have problems with their neighbors. They understand that 150 foot around the edge is, they'd rather give that.
And that's on the large scale.
Yeah, that's, if you have a 10-acre solar farm, that 150 feet, not gonna kill you, and it keeps the neighbors happy. Lot coverage, exempt from lot coverage calculations other than roads, mechanicals, things of that nature. And then impervious surface, we present that these are not impervious surfaces. It is a little, yeah, but we do have regulations in there that the surfaces underneath must be permeable. We want to make sure, and then on conditional uses, stormwater plants, things of that nature, to make sure, even though the water is running off, we want to make sure the hydrology is correct and that water gets a chance to infiltrate. And we don't have a problem where water's flooding off of a solar farm into a neighboring property. We're trying to avoid those sorts of issues.
Issues with the, what can grow underneath the solar panels. And what stabilizes the earth from the water shedding off of the solar panels.
And there is a lot of work being done around that, which we do reference. And there's actually more that we want to add to it, because agrivoltaics is a huge driver at this point within the state of using the land underneath to be able to graze cows. To be able for other cattle to graze, trying to figure out what's the best plant list for those sorts of things. So there is guidance now, and that guidance will be improved as we move on. Screening and fencing, especially all of them should be screened if they are ground mounted. Fence for the larger projects with appropriate signage, high voltage at intervals around the site. On the gate, there needs to be things that we didn't think about the first iteration of ensuring that there's emergency access. That no matter what the time of day, somebody first responders can get in. That there is signage for, if it's during the day and there's an issue with the goats, who do you call? You call the property manager. If it's at night, call 911 if there's an emergency. And just those sorts of requiring the signage that it hadn't matured enough as a market 15 years ago. First responder issues are critically important. This is something we hear from our communities all the time. We are talking about, we have to make sure that we're meeting all state and federal electrical building codes, things of that nature. We have the proper signage. This is also a new one, which is interesting for the medium and the large, that the developers are responsible for funding and developing the training for the first responders in the community. And it has to be done before it's plugged in. That way, they can offer a course in a community so that those community first responders understand the issues around that large scale solar development, what may happen, how do they deal with it, where are the shutoffs, those sorts of things. And it has to be done on a regular basis because to account for staff turnover on the first responders.
I don't even understand, how do you regulate that? I mean,
It's a requirement as one of the conditional uses that.
But how do you enforce that requirement? Let's say you're the first solar array that goes into a municipality, okay? So you're responsible for
large scale.
for large scale.
Yeah.
And then another developer comes in, puts another large scale in. Do they both have to fund these programs? And how do they do that on a regular basis? How do they cost share and, or does the first one stop and the second one picks up?
That would be a good problem.
Is it with the approval, the land development approval that this is
Conditional, you
inserted?
said it was a
Yes.
condition of conditional use.
Yes.
Is the way it's presented.
I'm assuming whoever's developing a solar array is somehow, they're making some money off of this. I mean, I'm assuming they're not just nonprofits that are putting in large solar arrays, right?
Correct.
I mean, they're energy companies or energy affiliates or something. I'm sure they're paying taxes, right?
Yes.
So I don't get that.
Well, I
I mean, how
mean,
you regulate it, that's my problem. Like, I'm not sure how that happens.
they could just fund the first responders to go to an industry standard course. You know, whether that's this is a good question. I'll find out whether there's online availability of understanding how to handle an emergency in a large scale solar development. But then, yeah, if you have two, like,
But but once again, I'm just not sure. So the first person through the door to do a large solar array is gonna start paying for this.
yes,
But I'm assuming they're getting the training and then, maybe there's some training every so many years or every year to do an update or something. And then somebody else comes in or maybe a third comes in and what happens to that? Do they pick up the payment or, like, how do they benefit? They benefit because they don't have to pay for it.
yeah.
They're all paying taxes.
I
They're all
think,
paying property taxes. They're all paying, I'm assuming in some municipalities, they can pay other taxes, income taxes and, local income taxes or something like that. But they're certainly not using the services in municipalities.
Is there a reoccurring certification that would demand your first responders have X number of trainings?
as part of the ordinance,
No, is that something when you put? who
Not that
would be
I am-
overseeing that?
not that I'm aware of. And it would probably be on a municipal first respond to work with the developer and be like, okay, we did the training here, 2 years later, you have to offer a training so that so our new first responders understand the solar farm and how it works. As far as when you start to get multiple developments of large scale, I think we can amend the language to ensure that either they can cost share or
I was just wondering if there's some oversight, not
not that I'm
just-
aware of.
That's surprising to me.
Yeah, because it's been,
That's true, that the municipality size is set up, and it's kind of new territory to think about, but it could be something that municipality, like they do other things to make sure things get funded properly. That there would be the solar panel, with training fund, that anybody that comes in and gets a permit has to contribute to that fund, and that way then on a regular
Yeah.
basis, it'd be done, it's funded by everybody that's going to be doing this.
But aren't they paying taxes?
Not always, there's a solar array on a church up in South.
Well, that's a different story. I mean, it's on a nonprofit, right?
Right.
We're talking about a large solar array that's, producing energy, assuming it's whether it's selling it back to the utility and making money off of that. I mean, somehow they're profiting from it or generating some funds from it. I mean, are they paying taxes? They're certainly paying property taxes. It's just like, and they're not using any services. It's not like they're gonna, sure, they have fire, obviously, they're gonna use fire services, but, there's no trash pickup. There's no sewer, effluent. I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to think about why they would be responsible for training the first responders when they're already paying some taxes.
so I guess it would be an interesting question, whether any other uses that have special safety considerations are required to do any sort of training for the municipal staff. Like if you have, some sort of dangerous widget factory, like, are they required to educate the first responders about what may happen on their site? So, once again, this was actually given to us by the industry. So it was one of those, they seem to be willing to pay for it as an industry because once again, for a lot of it, it counters the NIMBYism that might come along with a large scale solar farm. And it's not a huge cost to them for this sort of training. Like, it's not a heavy lift. But I think we can amend and think about moving the ordinance moving forward to talk about if there are multiple large developments, how can they cost share, just to make it even more equitable. And then we already bid on it, interior pathways and spaces to make sure that first responders can navigate through these systems. And then decommissioning. This is especially important for the large scale. What happens if these are no longer functioning after a certain amount of time? This is a huge community concern. You know, you have 20 acres of solar panels. For some reason, the company goes out of business. Now what happens? So there is a bond or escrow that is associated with it, which could also be used for training. If we can figure out how to put that in there. To ensure that there is money set aside for remediation if and when the project is decommissioned. This is currently under state legislation is considering how to do this. So we have language in there now, but this may change. And like everything with a model ordinance, especially one associated with technology, we want this to grow, adapt, change as we move forward. So we can incorporate the new state legislation around decommissioning. We can change the language around the training if we can find a better management, a better practice around that. But at the end of the day, we really just want to make sure that our communities can feel comfortable and safe having solar in their communities of all sizes, and that we get good projects that help save the world.
Yeah, I mean, I would be skeptical about how this has teeth in a zoning ordinance. I think it needs to be done at the state legislature, because this is the problem they're having all over the state with coal plants that go on, that stop work, that get decommissioned, but they just sit there, and how to reuse those sites at wells throughout the state that have never been properly decommissioned, because there's no, they stop using them and that's it. There's no means for that to get done, or escrow money or some fund through the state to take care of those things.
Yeah, I agree. It is.
There's a lot of that's being done right now through some of the, I guess, one of the bills, the infrastructure bills that have been passed in the last couple of years. There's some money in there, but I know that's a problem throughout the state.
Yeah, and the ordinance now, the model ordinance now requires an escrow to cover those costs, but I think it would be much more effective if it was at the state legislature level. So I am done for now, unless there are any other last questions about the solar model ordinance, and I will hand it over to the better half of my partnership, Rachel.
Before we dive, I just want to see if there's any questions. Are there any questions on solar? I mean, I have a couple more, but is there any other questions on solar?
Just one real quick, and I apologize if I missed it. It sounds like the industry was a partner throughout. What was the sort of forum for that? Did you have actual solar developers and providers in talk to them? I'm just curious.
Yes, there is the Mid-Atlantic Solar Association. We're friends with a guy named Ron Celentano who lives in Montgomery County. He is a solar developer. He's worked on solar legislation, for decades. He's affectionately known as the godfather of solar, and he represents the solar industry. We kind of use him as our conduit to the Solar Development Association. So he distributed it for their comments, and we were able to receive that. We also worked with a solar developer who is a consultant with PSATs. And he did a review and incorporated solar input from the solar industry on that end as well.
Did we discuss any of the provisions in the model ordinance with the land use attorney?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was reviewed through DVRPC. They had a contract for a technical consultant who had legal counsel.
And it seems like it's primarily geared towards large scale solar arrays.
I mean,
You're not really getting into the
we are,
residential.
yes, it covers everything. It covers.
Okay.
I mean, to be honest with you, like, at this point, most of the issues are around large scale. The solar and the medium size, like, rooftop, just kind of with the new fire safety codes that cover the setbacks, like, that is what it is. Like, we have provisions in there that we had before about anti-glare coatings, things like that. For small, and medium scale, you know, we talk about using the accessory use setbacks, things of that nature, because there's smaller projects that can be managed within a set. For ground mounted, yeah. But really, it's the large scale ones, which are the ones where we have seen the most change and the most insight into how do we regulate, how do we develop them. So the large scale is more fun to talk about at this point.
And how are you dealing with, does it get into dealing with like, covered parking lots?
Yes,
Because, you know, those can end up becoming large scale solar arrays. You know, you look at the link, for instance,
Mhm.
you know, the whole front portion of that parking lot is covered by roofs that are all solar panels. You know, they don't have, there's no way they have 150-foot setback, you know, there's no way they have 30 feet for access ways, and stuff like that.
well, we do cover those, pun intended. You know, we do talk about how they correlate between and how, like the cartways, they don't need to have the cartways because underneath is drivable. We talk about the correlation between the height of the canopies and the height of the primary building. So you don't have like a little rancher with a super high canopy in the parking lot, things of that nature. But once again, I feel like that's another one where as we see more and more of those installed, we're gonna learn best management practices of like, oh, we didn't think about X, Y, and Z. And then we'll have to, the same way we do with any technological ordinance, we adjust.
But don't you think, I mean, I think that's like a huge untapped resource.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I agree.
In Montgomery County specifically, I mean, you're talking about, you wanna do large scale solar array, I mean, we have malls and industrial parks with,
Yeah.
you know, massive impervious coverage of parking lots, I mean, you know, that's a prime target for putting in solar panels.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I think it is probably the biggest untapped, you know, land space for solar.
John, I probably missed it. What was the footage for large? What triggers
Over 5 acres.
over 5 acres?
I would say anything you can do to try to eliminate some of the hoops that people have to go through first. I mean, it took me, I just got solar panels on my house. And I am completely obsessed with, if I'm not looking at the cameras on my construction site to make sure people are actually doing something, I'm actually looking at my solar app and seeing how much solar I'm using. I think my son has stopped me from texting him because I text him every like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, I am producing.
Writing it out today.
So now you're taking credit for this song. You're basically
I
like.
am absolutely taking. credit. So, and you know, I cut some branches off. I went up on the roof to cut branches off to increase some of the solar. Now I'm thinking about where else I could put stuff, all for it. But anything to get, that's all rooftop stuff on top of my house. So
We do work, and we have in the past, and Scott's looking at his clock, so we gotta
Yes.
move it up. We have worked with DVRPC to develop permitting guidance, best practices, to work with municipalities about how they can speed up or maybe not even speed up, how they can maximize the permitting process, which is separate from the land use. You know, are there ways of, you know, speeding up the electrical process, the electrical inspection process, the building inspection process, things like that,
I think that's a change to the UCC.
which is,
Because you're not gonna do it township by township, and you're not gonna do it through a zoning ordinance. Because the zoning ordinance is not gonna affect the building code official.
so, I'm gonna stop you here because I do not want us to be rude to our guest, who is going to talk about building energy issues.
I'll stop.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah,
Of course.
Good.
A former law partner of mine wrote a solar ordinance for a primarily agricultural municipality in central Pennsylvania. If it would be at all help, I'll get it and I'll forward it over to John for him to take a look at. I think the municipality adopted it because they were worried about large-scale solar over prime agricultural lands. That was the issue there.
That would be awesome. Thank you, John.
Okay.
Dave, am I just,
What did you do?
what did I do? I'm back. Oh, we need,
Is there a different PowerPoint?
there is a different PowerPoint.
Oh.
Okay. Do you need my flash drive?
Yes. Sorry, we got caught up talking.
That's okay.
I thought your PowerPoints were together.
I did not,
You're in Abington, right?
I am.
Does the municipality have an ordinance there?
Called something like the board.
So was part of your struggles, how it was, how it was gonna be zoned or treated by zoning?
We didn't have any issues, more my issues with the company. Actually, partly my fault because I just was not responding to them when they needed to, and I needed to get some words together to secure them on the roof so they could get a structural engineer to sign off on the panels going on, so partly my fault, I was just kind of. They don't have a solar ordinance, I think they just use it under the accessory use. So Rachel, while we're waiting, how's Matt doing?
He's great.
You want us to go offline and you can really tell us how you feel?
I mean, he's very, very busy.
Yeah.
His schedule is pretty nightmarish.
Oh, good.
Good.
I think he's up for the challenge and he's enjoying it and he's doing a great job and we all enjoy working with him. So thank you and sorry.
We're training grounds.
I was just gonna say the same thing to you, thank you and sorry.
So while he's getting my presentation up, I'm Rachel Griffith and I am both John and Davy's counterpart in Chester County. So my role is basically a hybrid position. I work in the Planning Commission and I manage a small team of environmental planners. But I also work with the other county departments in implementing our climate action plan. So I sort of do a little bit of everything. I also work a lot with DVRPC like John does. On the multi-county initiatives and multi-municipal initiatives that they've really been pushing, especially from an energy perspective over the past couple of years. And so that the solar ordinance kind of started, maybe it didn't start with DVRPC, but they worked on it for a while. It was kind of a team effort and then John really brought it home. And so it was meant to be applicable to anybody, any municipality in the region. And so we in Chester County are going to be changing how we are talking to municipalities about their solar ordinances. And so we can be more consistent with this model ordinance because it really does help the industry if there's more consistency between ordinances across municipal lines, across county lines, really within a region, so everybody knows what to expect. So if you need $2 million of escrow in one place and nothing in the other, it can really make a difference. So this project that I'm going to be talking about is another initiative that was meant to be applicable really to any municipality in the state, really except first-class cities or the first-class city. And so this was something that John and I had both been hearing about from municipalities that they were interested in requiring or incentivizing higher energy efficiency or renewable energy, solar ready new construction in buildings. And there was a lot of question about what was legally allowable, basically, because the UCC restricts anything that goes above and beyond what's in the UCC. And so I'm pretty sure we both thought like it was kind of a no-go, like you really couldn't do much in a zoning ordinance to like require above code energy efficiency or solar ready new construction, that sort of thing. And so we wanted to be able to advise municipalities what to do. So we created this toolkit that can be used by municipalities or planning consultants to sort of show what the different things are that are possible, how a municipality can impact higher levels of energy efficiency and incentivize renewable energy. Because as we found out, there are things that municipalities can do. So just overall, we both have a climate action plan. So this was sort of the grounds for working together on this. And in both of our counties, stationary energy, or the energy that's used by buildings primarily for heating, is the majority of where the greenhouse gas emissions come from. In our region overall, we've got a lot of buildings, a lot of houses. And so to the extent that we can reduce the greenhouse gas emissions coming from those buildings, we can make a big impact. There are also a lot of municipalities that have adopted resolutions committing them to both reducing their greenhouse gas emissions for their own operations and community-wide. And so this is sort of a tool to help those municipalities get towards those commitments. Because there are sort of limited things municipalities can do, the county included, to really shape the energy transition. So one is to reduce our own emissions. So for a municipality, from their wastewater treatment plant, their municipal building, that sort of thing, they can promote energy efficiency and renewables in their community. So having educational programs, maybe having an incentive, reducing permit fees for rooftop solar applications, that sort of thing. They can regulate and incentivize renewable energy and electrification, energy conservation in their ordinances, which is really what this toolkit is all about. And then they can also regulate energy efficiency and greenhouse gas emissions in existing buildings. And this is something DBRPC is working on at the regional level through a model building benchmarking ordinance, which would basically, if a municipality adopted the ordinance, buildings over a certain size would be required to disclose their energy usage, to measure and disclose their energy usage on a yearly basis. And then communities that adopt these ordinances sometimes go on to adopt a building performance standard, which requires a certain level of efficiency by a certain time. So that's a whole different thing that our toolkit does not cover, but it could be a really effective policy. There's lots of legal challenges to building performance standards going on in other cities. Some have ruled that the building performance standard is not legal. Some have ruled that it is. So it's definitely an evolving landscape. So John and I worked with a legal advisor on this project to review what we came up with. And overall, the guidance is that in the zoning and subdivision ordinance, a municipality can regulate the form and extent of development, require compliance with the latest adopted codes, and incentivize above code efficiency, electrification, renewable energy, all of the nice, happy green things. You cannot, in the zoning and subdivision ordinance, require changes to existing structures outside the land development process and require specific energy efficiency requirements of appliances like HVAC equipment, because that's covered at the federal level. So jumping into our toolkit, we really talk about 4 overall buckets that municipalities could address to implement change. So one is the things that you can regulate, you can require in the zoning and subdivision ordinance. The next is the things that must be incentivized. The third are things that you can do through building codes and property maintenance codes, and which are outside the zoning and subdivision ordinances. And then the fourth is adopting policy statements and goals. So we'll talk about each one of these at a very high level, but we found a lot of examples of where this is already happening. And so all of these strategies that we're going to talk about have already been done in a municipality in Pennsylvania. And so that's really the beauty of our guide, is that municipalities like to copy each other, and nobody wants to be the first. And we have a lot of links and a lot of examples for each one of these strategies, and I'll highlight a couple of them. But the first one, so in the category of things that can be required, so you can require buildings be oriented a certain way or landscaping be placed in a certain way to maximize energy efficiency and conservation. So where landscaping is placed on a site can have a huge impact on how much energy the home uses or the building uses. So if you've got a wall of windows on the southern side of your house, it's gonna bake in the sun. And so if you have a large shade tree on that southern side or on the western side, it can provide a huge amount of shading, reducing your cooling needs. And then it also can allow the sun to come in because the leaves will fall in the winter. And then, so that's when you want the sun, reducing your heating needs. So you can put windbreaks on certain sides of the house. You can locate unheated buildings on certain sides of the house to act as windbreaks, and require orientation of the buildings in a certain way. We saw a lot of this in the subdivision code because sometimes your site doesn't allow you to orient the buildings at a certain angle. So we think it might be better to be in the subdivision code so it can be waived just to allow for some flexibility. But we did find an example in Lebanon County, North Lebanon Township, where it is in the zoning ordinance and they require landscape windbreaks and plantings not interfering with solar radiation. Outdoor lighting can also be a way to increase energy efficiency using LED lights, using recommendations.
Sorry, I want to stop you for a second.
Sure.
Go back to what you were just saying.
Yeah.
Building orientation, are you just talking about the orientation of the mass of the building, or are you actually talking about what's happening inside the building?
Just the orientation of the mass of the building. Yeah. We also found examples where they wanted the streets oriented east-west, new streets, so that the house could be north-south. So that you could orient streets, require streets to be oriented that way too. That is also another thing that could be tricky based on your site. So yeah, a lot of lighting doesn't need to be on all the time. It can be dimmable. So there's lots of ways to reduce the energy that outdoor lighting uses. So moving on to the things that we believe need to be incentivized rather than required. So when a municipality is going about doing this, we might recommend sort of identifying what it is they're trying to do. Is it really greenhouse gas emissions reduction they're trying to go for? Is it energy conservation? Is it downtown revitalization? And then figuring out what design strategies would help get them to those goals. And then what are the incentives that would be attractive enough for a developer or a landowner to take advantage of without giving too much away? So once that gets figured out, this is sort of like the menu of different incentives that we identified. So the most common that we found is land use related bonuses. So things like density, increased impervious coverage, increased height, and then also a use bonus. So allowing a use that wouldn't otherwise be permitted in that district. If you supply green energy or if you have a solar ready building or something like that. There were a lot of options that used conditional use, and this allows for a lot of flexibility. So you could make these, the green features that you're trying to incentivize part of the conditional use process. So that in order to get this use, you need to show that your energy efficiency is, 10% above code or something like that.
As long as the specific conditions that should be considered during a conditional use hearing are enumerated in the ordinance. If it's left open, then you end up with the first line in the second column, which is over time becomes extended and cost becomes more because the elected body and also the public coming to discuss it or just have no parameters to work within.
Right, exactly.
The key to a conditional use is to have specific conditions that can be, or specific issues that can be considered in conditions and not just a blanket of anything that people want to bring up.
So true. Yes, we can go off the rails quickly. So the second one we did not find any examples of, but we believe it to be possible, is having so nobody wants to go through the conditional use process because it adds time and cost. So if you have a by right use, that's the green option. So an above code green building. And then the conditional use is the regular UCC version of that. we did see examples of municipalities that reduce their permit fees for certain design features. This, these are expensive to review if you've got, a municipal engineer. And so the permit fees cover those costs. So it would be important to not reduce the fees too much. And we think this might be more appropriate for residential scale when, it's a quick review of a solar permit or something like that to reduce the permit fees for things you're trying to incentivize, like a rooftop solar or an EV charging station at somebody's house or something like that. We found examples from across the Delaware Valley of these incentives. So in Narberth, they are very energy forward. And so they have energy efficiency requirements for conditional use for apartments and institutional buildings. In Kennett Township in Chester County, they permit additional building height in their commercial district in exchange for renewable energy, green building design, or TDRs. In Chester, they have a lot of green related incentives, including that just allow you more site design flexibility if you provide certain green features. And then in Doylestown Township, they have a permit fee reduction system called their green points, where you get 1 point or a certain number of points for each sustainable design feature. And then each point is a 1% reduction in their permit fees. And I will note that we did talk to most of these municipalities whose examples we're using to see, like, are they being used? How are they working? And it was sort of a mixed bag. In some places, like in Chester, they might have used it once, like nobody really wanted to take them up on it. And it could just be the type of development that's happening in Chester. I think it was a similar thing in Doylestown Township. That it had been used kind of sparsely. But I think it's sort of like the more clear it is and that like this is how we do things here, the more it will be used. So we looked into the building codes and what exactly the preemptions are in the building codes and what exactly is possible. And just sort of at a high level, we learned that municipalities can request a change to the UCC that applies in their municipality. They have to request it from the state, the same agency that is the one who approves the UCC. And we did not find any examples of any municipalities requesting or getting approval for an energy related change to the UCC. So we think it's possible. We talked to them and they said, like, we can't give you an answer on that. Nobody's done it before. So basically, Pennsylvania is generally several versions behind the latest adopted building code by the International Code Council. And with each update of the building code, there's a little bit more energy efficiency that's required. And so a municipality could, in theory, look to a more current edition of the building code and request one of those changes be applicable in their municipality. We don't know if they'd be able to get approved for that, but it could be possible. Another thing municipality.
Currently, they're in the 2018 code books.
Yes.
UCC.
Yeah, and I thought there was supposed to be an update.
21 code books being adopted in beginning of June, but that seems to have lagged.
Yeah, I don't know why that is.
I mean, just so you know, like, there's not a huge difference between the 18 and the 21. There's some there's a fair amount of accessibility changes from the 18 to the 21. But I don't know specifically about the energy code.
Yeah, there was one thing, it might have been related to EV charging. I think there's an EV ready provision in either the 21 or the 24 code. And so potentially you could request that be applicable in your
The
municipality.
issue with the UCC process that you're talking about is that what is being proposed by a municipality has to meet certain standards for even being considered to be adopted as an amendment on top of the adopted UCC codes. And that's probably the biggest deterrent. It has to be something specific, uniquely specific to the situation. It can't just be we want every building to be sprinkled.
And what I don't know is if a municipality had They had passed a Ready for 100 resolution, and they had goals in their comprehensive plan about reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and they had all these other policies. If they could point to that and say, this is what we're trying to do, and this is why we want this changed.
Fortunately, I don't think that because there's like a disconnect there between what a municipality or even a county's policies and ideas might be to what the actual practical building code, and that's, you know, there's a disconnect.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true, but somebody needs to try it, I think.
What's that?
Somebody needs to try it and see what happens.
Don't disagree with you.
So the second thing that could be possible is adopting a stretch code, such as the International Green Construction Code or the Zero Code, and then allowing that code to sort of automatically satisfy the requirements of the UCC in the municipality, rather than having to go through a separate process. So we also wanted to understand, what can a municipality do to impact existing buildings? Because we sort of went into this process thinking the answer was nothing. But we did find some examples that could potentially mitigate some really egregious energy inefficiencies in existing buildings. And so we found a couple examples where the municipality requires an inspection when a property is being transferred. And the inspection is based on the property maintenance code compliance. And there could be a checklist of additional things that have to be met that are going to be inspected. Norristown is one of the municipalities we found that has this. And so things that are on that checklist include LED lighting, weather stripping, weather tight windows, ensuring boilers and furnaces are in good and working condition. So it puts a lot of burden potentially on the municipality to inspect these buildings that are transferred. But it could, you know, if a municipality is willing to do it, it could reduce some energy inefficiencies. And then lastly, just having supportive policy in place that can be pointed to in case any of these things were to be challenged. We think what's in this toolkit is pretty defensible, but it's always good to have the substantiation. And it also shows that, you know, in order to pass this policy, you've got to have the support of your community. So it can sort of start the conversation with communities and really get people on board when some of these new ordinance amendments or things like that are coming up in public meetings. So this is a link to Chester County, to our website on the Chester County Planning Commission's website. I understand this is also on you guys' website. We are going to be keeping this up to date as we hear of more examples of these, because hopefully there will be more examples of ordinances like this coming online. So that is what I've got for you. Does anybody else have any questions?
Any questions
to the
for
toolkit?
Rachel or for Don? Jonathan, anything from you?
Yeah, possible.
No,
Bob? Anything from Bob?
Yes, Steve. Quick question. Do we know what the new courthouse has done during this construction to make them more energy efficient? Did we get like a LEED certification or anything like that?
I don't know if it would lead certification. I do know that the statistics I heard was that the new courthouse, even though it's gonna be, what, twice or 30 times the size of our original, will use less energy than the old courthouse has been using. There is a percentage, I can't remember what the numbers are, maybe John knows them. No.
No, I mean, I know that let's leave it at that. I don't want to state figures that I'm not positive of, though I am pretty sure that they are designing it to LEED silver standards. And I think they will pursue the accreditation certification for that.
That's good to hear.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions for Rachel or John? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And tell Matt we said hi.
Will do.
Can we use that link to send complaints to Matt?
Why not?
Generic, just generic complaints about Matt's performance?
I think there's a specific link for that. Like they've had to set one up just dedicated to that.
Yeah, the hotline.
I'm gonna fill that I'm gonna find some bot that'll just keep filling it every week. Okay. All right.
Love that.
Thank you very much. Move on to our next agenda item, community planning assistance contract fee determination, and I call on Eric. Good morning, Eric.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. Bringing up the presentation. Yeah, the second one down. So you have the presentation summary and the resolution in front of you. We did work through this with a working group of the board, including Stephen, Bob, and Nicole, where we went into more detail on this. So this is sort of the result of that discussion, but I'll certainly do a presentation and be able to answer any additional questions. The presentation summary was probably longer and more detailed than you needed, but want to be sure everybody has the same information. Okay. We'll leave it there. Good. So just a quick snapshot of where we are. So currently 2025, right this second, we have 43-year contracts in place, 36 municipal, 4 regional, and we have 1 short-term contract with Norristown, which will go through the end of the year, updating their subdivision ordinance. 11 community planners in the section managing those contracts. The program goal is to recover 50% of the costs. Again, it's subsidized by the county by 50%. So the municipalities are paying the other half. The goal is that portion of it, that we collect a half of what our costs are back from the municipalities. We do analyze the costs every year to adjust the planner day rate. We've been doing this every year as long as I've been here, looking at whether we need to raise them or keep them the same. And then last year at this time, we raised the planner day rate by 12% for the 2025 to 2027 contracts. So last year at this time, we had anticipated our 2024 cost recovery was going to be about 43%. It was 49% at the end of 2023. So it was dropping. It did end up around 43% by the end of the year. This was due considerably to the adjustments that we got in 2023. There was a compensation study that was implemented. The cost for the planning commission went up between 17% and 23%, depending on the individual people that were involved. Great for the planning commission, got us into a competitive situation for recruitment, but it was a direct, quick impact on our cost recovery. So it did go down pretty dramatically based on that. So last year we got basically the same group together, looked at what our options were moving forward to try and get back to that 50%. We developed a 4-year program of rate increases to get us back to that goal. So you can see for last year, we did a 12% increase. The 3.3 is the differential. So the 12% increase was on the first year from the prior contracts to the first year of this contracts. That 2840 was 12% higher than this, than 750. So that's the 12% increase. And then we look at them between the years and we did a 3% differential. So it goes up 3% each year during the contract, basically to account for any cost of living increases that we get or other increases in costs that just might be naturally occurring. And so that's what we did for last year. We had 11 contracts that were renewed last year on those new rates. In 2025, we've added 2 contracts under those new rates. We had 3 mid-year renewals so far this year. 1 renewed with no change in their level of service at the new rates. We did have 1 that requested a slight reduction in their level of service. And we accommodated that to maintain the contract. And then we had 1 contract that expired in August. We're still at lower growing. We're still working on their comprehensive plan. We hope to have that completed and adopted by the end of the year. They have a full draft now, but it will take a few months to go through the required MCPC requirements for adoption. So they're going to be looking at their budget this fall, and maybe they'll be coming back in January 26 with a new 3-year contract. Our mid-year projection right now for cost recovery is about 43%. So pretty much where it was last year. This is not much of an improvement based on those new rates, but it's exactly where we projected we'd be. Only 11 of the 40 contracts are at that higher rate. And then we also had cost of living increase in 2025 of 3.5%. So our costs went up this year. The differential for the contracts that we currently have are still at 1%. So we didn't get much additional revenue in last year. Some obviously based on the new contracts at the higher rate. But the 1% increase in the existing contracts, basically the other 29, not enough to really keep us, improve our recovery rate beyond the 43%. So considering where we thought we'd be, we knew we weren't going to get an overnight success with those increases. That's why we had developed a 4-year program last year. We're recommending we just stay the course, do what we had planned to do as part of that program, and then reevaluate next year. The one adjustment we're going to make is based on the last 3 years of salary adjustments that we've received from the commissioners of 4%, 4% and 3.5%. We did decide to bump the differential up. So instead of the 12.33, we're going to raise it 10% again this year with 3.5% as the differential, and try and make sure that any cost of living adjustments that we get don't erode the increased revenue that we're trying to bring in by the new contracts. So again, 10% overall. So again, that 840 to 924 will be a 10% increase, and then 3.5% for each of the subsequent years in the contract. We're not there yet, but then next year, again, we would talk about 8%, and then either maintain the 3.5 or go back to 3 or something else, and then another 8% the following year. And that was projected to get us back to the 50%. At that point, we'd have all contracts under the new higher rates, with the higher differentials and cost of living adjustments. And so again, that would bring us back to that 50%. That's the goal. Again, we're going to adjust every year. We'll go back and run the same numbers at the end of the year to see if we are where we thought the mid-year projections were going to take us. Review it again in 2026 and see where we're at, and then just make adjustments as needed. So just so we know what the impacts are going to be, so contracts expiring in December of this year with a standard level of service. Currently, you're paying about $13,000 a year. Again, that's $26,000 worth of service. They just pay half of that. Under the proposed first year rate, those contracts would be renewed at about $16,600. So that's about a $3,500 increase from what they're paying this year to what they'd be paying next year. That is an increase. I think it's not something that's probably going to be surprising to a lot of communities, given the inflation we've seen the last few years. I'm sure their costs across all levels of their budget are increasing. One thing we are going to do is highlight to them that our hourly rate is only $71, for the planners and the services they get. Again, they only pay half of that. So they're essentially paying $36 an hour for professional planning services, which if they compare that to what they're paying their engineer, what they're paying their solicitor, what they pay for other professional services to the community, it should be a pretty compelling argument for the value that they're getting from the contract beyond their relationship with the planner and the work that they see coming into them every month.
Especially engineers.
Yeah, and I'm not comparing us to engineers. I mean, it is a different field, but certainly professional services in general are not cheap, and ours are pretty reasonable in comparison.
Especially engineers.
But especially engineers, that's a good point. I think these solicitors probably do pretty well too, but
Yeah.
anyway. But that's an important point. Now, I will say, for some communities, and no matter what the value is, there's only certain things they can afford. And, we'll be kind of testing that a little bit and seeing what municipalities can actually afford. But based on the experience we've had so far, it's been fine and hasn't really affected the renewal rate of the contracts. So again, we're proposing a 10% increase overall, first year to first year, and then a 3.5% from year to year. And we do have 11 contracts renewing this year. And so once the rates are finalized, we'll be sending out cost proposals to each of those communities with a summary of what we've been doing for the last 3 years, what we'd anticipate to do under new contract, and start those discussions.
So there's 11 contracts under the previous higher rates. There'll be 11 more contracts, assuming everybody resigns.
Correct.
Under the new rates.
Yep.
So we'll be up to 22 at a higher rate of the 40.
Plus the new ones and the 2 that renewed mid-year. So yeah, so it's definitely getting up there.
Right.
And there should just be one final year of maybe 13 contracts that we'd have to renew in 2027 to get us to make sure everybody's under the new rates.
But A lot of these our western communities are paying for their individual contracts, but then they pay for regional contracts.
That's true, and that's a good point, and that's something I briefly mentioned in our working group. Is that's something we might have to look at as we move forward, because those communities paying for, and we have some that are doing both, some that are just paying for the regional planning. But for those doing both in particular, yeah, it's another $4,000 a year they're paying. And so I think we might have to look at either some discount rate for the regions based on the number of contract communities, or just discount the regional planning in general, because I think that's something that is much more important to us because of the commitments that we get through those municipalities for land use and zoning. Anyway, it's something I think we do need to look at. We don't have any regions up this year. We had one up last year that renewed. We have 3 up going into 2027. And I think at that point, and maybe next year, we'll need to flesh that out a little bit more.
At a time.
Yeah.
What regional contract renewed last year?
In Indian Valley, I believe.
Yes, you've done, question, sorry, I'm still the new guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Are the contracts all set up on a hourly time and materials or a day time and material? How does it work?
So how much time do you have?
Sorry,
Yeah,
it's too
this- no,
complicated,
this
I
is-
can take it
It's a
offline.
great question, because it's something you need to understand. So this goes back to when the program was established back in 1970. So they identified a planner day rate. And that's what these numbers are for, the planner day rate. And then we create a level of service for the community contract based on the size of the community, the complexity of the work that we're going to do for them, the amount of the work that we're going to do for them. And then we have the night meetings that we attend as well. For some it's 12, or some it's 24, some it's just we build in 4 for some presentations to the governing body for an ordinance adoption or something. So the level of service then is tailored by the community, for the community based on what we're going to do. And then that planner day rate is applied to that. The planner day rate is basically a blended cost of all of our expenses. It's basically looks at the whole agency's kind of average salary level, fringe level, overhead. All of that's included in that planner day rate, to again, try and recoup that 50% of our costs. And then again, it's adjusted by that level of service. A standard level of service is 2.5 planner days. That's basically one professional planner dedicated to your community, working on at least one project at a time, whether it be a comprehensive plan, a new zoning ordinance, subdivision ordinance. And then from there, again, the complexity of that comprehensive plan for East Greenville is going to look different than a comprehensive plan for Cheltenham. So that gets built into the kind of the complexity side, and that may adjust that up or down for the community.
But there's a guess about how many hours in a month are gonna go into the level of work when you establish the contract?
So not directly, we track the hours in our management information system, so I know how many hours are going into each one. It's kind of, we've more or less checked it on the back end. Are we meeting our 50% cost recovery? Because in some cases, it's gonna vary from year to year. Working on a comprehensive plan, maybe we exceed a certain number of hours, or maybe it's a little bit of a loss that year. The next year, we're doing implementation, and maybe based on the types of projects, they see a big land development come in. So the work fluctuates, so it's hard to, from a year to year basis, just look strictly at the hourly rate. We kind of have to average that over the 3. So it gets difficult. I think roughly what I look at is if the planner day rate is 2.5 planner days for the contract. If you double that, that's probably the days per month the planner is working on that contract. So a standard rate of 2.5 planner days would be 5 days a week of work. They each have at least 3 to 4 communities, each planner. So if you are a community planner with 4 contracts, each at 2.5 planner days, that's your month right there for that community. So that's a rough estimate. Again, it on the back end, it works out because of the fluctuation. Some community might have been over that year, some was a little under, they'll switch next year. It averages out over the 3 years, and it averages out across the 40 contracts to get us that 50% recovery. At least it did until the 2023.
Johnson?
In recent years, we've been talking about, do we anticipate any additional communities coming in? Do we have enough staff to cover them? Where are we with those issues?
Right. We're tight right now. Well, we had the 2 new contracts up for Frederick and White Marsh. Not sure what Lower Gwyn's gonna do yet. That could create some additional capacity. We do have some serious interest right now from several communities. At least one is very serious. And I think depending on what happens in Lower Gwynedd, we can probably accommodate that, even if Lower Gwynedd renews. But that'll put us right there. And there's probably a few other communities that we've had some brief conversations with.
Communities, 'cause we don't.
So that would have to be a discussion at a much higher pay scale than me, talking with the commissioners probably, because they'd have to decide, do we want to continue to grow the program, continue to, you know, get good planning out there? You know, it'd obviously be another staff person. There'd be a balance with, well, if we get 2 more, would that be good? You know, again, I'll let Scott comment on that, but.
With launching our new comprehensive plan in 2026, we certainly want to be able to welcome communities that want to implement some of the policies that we're promoting. There is a change.
And just on top of
Just something to
that,
think
yeah,
about.
in 2015, when we updated the comprehensive plan, and a lot of this was, you know, the current director and our going out to every community, talking about the comprehensive plan as it was getting adopted, encouraging communities to think about planning more. We averaged, prior to 2015, our contracts, we were averaging between 25 and 28 contracts. After 2015, with that push essentially to get municipalities to really think about comprehensive planning and rethink their commitment to planning, you know, we shot up to 35, 36 contracts. And we've done, as you know, a lot of comprehensive plans over the last 10 years. So I could see that same process, maybe, you know, encouraging some additional contract interest as well.
Just ahead of the.
Yeah, it's a year ago, I'd say we're, and previous to that, you know, there wasn't really much appetite for expansion. I think momentum has gotten to that. That's through a lot of constant work and reminding and education. You know, we, a lot of new people.
Building
the effort,
those relationships and bridges.
right. But whether or not that gets to the point where we have to be in a position where we know we can use the extra staff and have those contracts. So it's a little bit of a dance, but I'm feeling a lot better about it.
So first, we have Montgomery County Planning Commission Resolution 25-9.1, resolution of the Montgomery County Planning Commission adjusting the fee schedule for the Community Planning Assistance Program as listed on the resolution. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Moved and second, or any other further questions from Planning Commission members, either in the room or online? Bob and John, Jonathan?
All good.
All good.
The only thing I would put out there is I'd love to, what you said was awesome, and I think I got most of it, but I'd love to understand a little bit more. Maybe you guys already all know it, being here for a long time, but the relationship between the planning day rate and like actual costs, just, I don't get it quite yet, but that doesn't mean I'm not gonna support the
So you
resolution.
can reach out to Eric, or if you want to reach out to me, we'll do it. So
Yeah, thank you.
I think there's not a specific algorithm. I think it's a combination of what the services are needed by the municipality, you know, what meetings they want the planning commission, the community planner to attend. And then that gets formulated into approximately how many hours. Some weeks, some months they don't spend that much time, some months they spend more time. And I think the idea is to average out and figure out that will fit services that are requested by the municipality.
And I would say the number itself is a legacy measuring stick that was created. And ideally, I think we would maybe consider looking at revising it at some point to be more meaningful in terms of that. Which, you know, it's easier to stick with what you have and to keep, you know.
Yeah. That would take action by the commissioners to revise the measuring stick.
I think we could recommend that in the future if we wanted.
Look at that.
I'd be hesitant to go to the strict hourly rate though, because of the variations that can occur in a contract. And so, not that I don't want to be held to a standard, but I think that it could be unfair measuring stick to just look at straight hours, because we are much more product oriented in what it takes to do that product. Because when we do a comprehensive plan, if and this has happened in Ambler, we're working on the comprehensive plan, they had a major development come in. We put the comprehensive plan on the shelf for 3 months, then we had to come back to it. So that was 3 months that we weren't working on the comprehensive plan. And so it gets tricky. I think what's happened over time is we kind of check it on the back end. If we're bringing in 50%, if we're meeting our goals of the program by bringing in 50% of our costs, then our fees must be right and our planner day rate levels must be pretty correct. And so then we adjust from there the next year.
I understand kind of the master averaging from your side of the equation. I'd be curious on the municipal side of the equation, like if Abington's the one always using all your hours and they're benefiting from the averaging and one of your slower municipalities is picking on Abington.
So just
Yeah,
on that, yeah.
If not, then the averaging is fair for you, but it might not be at the municipal level. I don't wanna be sticking the mud. I'm just curious about
So
it.
just two-
I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah, two quick things on that. So one is we do have about 3 communities that really use us as a retainer. So we don't have any dedicated work program for that community, but they pay us, you know, an X amount of dollars a year to have us on call for what they want to do. So we might do no hours per year or limited hours per year for those 3 communities. And they understand that relationship, but when they call us, when they need an ordinance consideration, and we just had West Potts Grove do this, they called us up for some ordinance work. We were there, we did it, we turned it around for them. So that's a value to those communities to just have us on call on retainer. So that is gonna be kind of subsidizing potentially some of the other contracts in that particular year. We also, at the end of 3 years, will look at each of those contract communities and see where we've been. If they've been consistently doing more work than we had budgeted for in the previous contract, we'll adjust the contract from there, and vice versa. If they're using less than they have, you know, we'll talk about that at the time of renewal and then adjust their level of service. So if somebody did over a 3-year contract consistently go over, we'll adjust that at the next contract level. Either if they've been asked us to go to more meetings than they had contracted, or we're doing more work for them, we'll change that level of service. So we do
You're not
correct.
when you do that annual adjustment, you're not adjusting these rates for the contract, you're adjusting that 2.5.
Correct. We're adjusting the level of
Numbers?
service. Yeah, to make sure that, they're paying their fair share of what the full contract costs are. But yeah, that will vary from year to year. And that's the one plus of the contract system is that when we enter a contract and suddenly some big project comes up for you or some big initiative, we're not gonna change the rates or the level of service midstream. We kind of locked in what that is for 3 years. You know what you're gonna be paying, and that's kind of the value to a lot of the communities. And then we'll get you the next renewal and talk about it there and adjust the level of service as appropriate.
I think these long-term relationships and these communities being comfortable with interacting with planning commission personnel, even though sometimes it changes, is really valuable. I mean, to go out and scope another agency to deal with the financial ramification of that, and they look at where they're putting their money in different community services. With both that long-term relationship and the consistency and understanding not have to worry about it is probably very valuable to anyone who's making these decisions.
True. And I think the overall value, so in the years that I've been working with this program, 23, I think at this point, no municipality has ever asked how many hours we've worked on their contract. The value that they get is so apparent to them that they're never on the back end going, and did we get that $10,000 worth of service we paid for last year? They're pretty confident they are.
I think the key is to really make sure that the policymakers for the county understand the value of this community assistance contract program and the ability for the county to have those relationships with the municipalities we serve and how vital that is to, you know, a whole number of things. It is, and I've said this before, it is literally the finger of the county that is embedded into some of these municipalities and is really their first and majority contact with the county. It is their community assistance planner, so, or their community planner, I should say. Okay, any other questions before we move on? All those
Just,
pass the resolution, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Eric. Appreciate the work. Okay, next is our community planning assistance update, and we call on John. Morning, John.
Good morning, board.
Take us to Lower Frederick's Township.
All right, talking about all the planning assistance contracts, now we're just talking about one.
Yep. Give us a tour.
All right. I feel like I was just up here, that was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Talking about Lower Frederick. Time flies. Yeah, it's been my privilege to work with Lower Frederick for about 6 years now. But I think our close relationship with Lower Frederick is about 30 years old now. Eric, can you confirm?
Yeah, Watson Lozeski was their planner years ago.
Yeah, so we've been working closely with them for quite a long time. There we go. By basic stats, they're not one of our bigger townships out there in the Perkiomen Valley. They're actually pretty close by some of these general measures to the county overall, though, which is a little surprising for a smaller municipality out west. But they do have a kind of balance between the denser sort of like suburban development in their village centers and their more rural, almost matching the county in that way, having that mix. We look at how things have changed over the past few years. They've been pretty steady in population, just about 1% growth, not even, despite some residential development. You got that small household size. Household income is pretty steady. Adjusting for inflation, it's basically flat since 2010. But we're seeing that cost-burdened households and education level are ticking in positive directions. Cost burdening down, education up. So healthy indicators overall. See the land use mix there between suburban, denser village, and rural. Other current events with their regional involvement, they're of course pretty central to the Perkiomen mapping and flood mitigation study. They were hit pretty hard by those floods in recent years. So looking forward to
just listening to the open space.
Working on those recommendations. They also recently completed a sidewalk project that was batted around in the township for years before I even started working with them. And that was completed with some help from the county with grant funding. And they've got some residential development under construction right now or advancing towards approval. And they're undertaking some parks and open space planning that we'll talk a little bit more about as we go forward. So under the previous contract spanning 2022 through 2024, we did the usual ordinance and land development reviews, providing flexible assistance, including grant application assistance. They got a MONCO 2040 implementation grant back in 2023. We started doing some trails mapping, which we built on more just very recently, and undertaken some revisions to their zoning and saldo land development ordinances to kind of implement the comprehensive plan, which they adopted back in 2022. That includes natural resource protections, revisions to their neighborhood lotting, cluster zoning, and kind of relatedly some regulations regarding residential streets and single access cul-de-sacs and loop roads. So the MONCO 2040 implementation grant project that they just completed this spring runs about an 800-foot sidewalk from the township building over to the fire hall. It connects up some important community destinations where they hold events, they hold voting, helps township employees to get back and forth without having to drive or squeeze between the old falling down guardrail and the traffic. And they also, as part of this, replaced a culvert that dated back to the 1870s or something. So they're in good shape. Don't have to worry about the road falling in during a flood or something. And this is a really big step towards some of their long-held walkability goals. So under the new contract, starting at the first of this year, they are renewing at, renewed at 2 planner days per month, 12 night meetings per year, with a total contract cost over the 3 years of just over $70,000. Their share of half there being 35. You can see how that adjusts year by year to increase a bit there. So they're in the first class of the new higher rates. Under the new contract, we will continue to provide flexible assistance, including grant project development and applications. They seem to have a bit of an appetite for that right now. We'll continue with the usual development and ordinance reviews and helping with that development of revisions to ordinances One that project that recently kind of completed was trail and walkability planning. So this is the end of that sidewalk project and possibly the beginning of their next sidewalk project or some upcoming one. So recently completed, building on work from the very end of the last contract. They've adopted, or they're currently going through the adoption process for a update to their trails and walkability connections plan. This is implementing the 2022 Township Comprehensive Plan that they adopted. It has a lot to say about improving walkability, bikeability, and connections of transportation by all modes throughout the township. That their legacy of small, narrow farm roads, cul-de-sac developments here and there has not brought them the level of connectivity that they're hoping to achieve, that they expect new development to provide. It includes things like this gateway that was envisioned for them, looking to include sidewalks, beautify entrances to villages, improve crosswalk safety. And this plan builds upon the work from their open space plan we did for them in 2006, an update in 2015, where they expanded their vision. And now, starting at the end of 2024, I was helping them map out and inventory the easements that they hold, the trails they've completed and added, opportunities to build trails that they've lost because of land use change. It's generally a pretty positive picture, though. It's not like they've lost serious opportunities. We're able to reroute things around preserved farms, et cetera. So they developed a vision, wish list of connections they'd like to make between the villages to adjacent communities, and start to look at general routings. So they named 3 top priority linkages connecting their village centers, Zieglerville, Springmount, and also connecting to Schwenksville, which is an important part of the kind of broader Perkiomen Valley community there. So got sort of 3 legs that they'd like to sort of link up. And so I took them through different options for routing these priority linkages. In this particular case, linking Zieglerville and Springmount, the Planning Commission opted to keep all 3 alternatives in consideration for future trail project development because they see value in all of them. We talked about trade-offs between easement availability, right-of-way difficulties, properties involved, distances covered, community destinations that are served by each. And for this one, at least, connecting all of their businesses essentially and most of their residents, they want all options on the table. So they had success in 2023. In 2024, they were involved with some other projects. They didn't quite have the resources on hand to complete a 2024 Montco 2040 implementation grant application. But as they were talking and considering and batting around ideas, the Board of Supervisors got the idea that they'd like a nice, concise list of trail project priorities. So that became kind of a renewed focus for this connections update. So they've got a list of 10, 5 that are really high priority. They're smaller, they're simpler, and more immediately useful to the community. And another 5 that are a little bit more of a stretch, that need more development, that have more involvement with partners like PennDOT or the county. And there's an example of one here. This is their 4th priority, reaching out past that gateway that we saw from the rendering in the comp plan. So they're working now to adopt that connections plan update as an appendix to their 2022 Township Comp Plan. We're shifting gears now to look at that Zieglerville Village area and consider some revisions to zoning. It's a place where they expect to get some development interest, maybe not immediately, but in the coming years. It has some large undeveloped parcels. This is a place where we've worked with them in the past. I think 20 years ago, they had a pretty significant effort, which led to their current village mixed-use zoning. And so they see the opportunity, they want to address some issues. So we'll be looking soon here at parking requirements, retail development standards, and the density of development that's allowed there. Wasn't really supposed to animate, but you see it. Following on from that, I expect probably be involved in finding grant funding for additional trail and walking projects. Park improvements are on their mind as well. They're currently, we're running a survey for them about Coble Park in the center of the township, which should be going to construction and get for funding to get funding for those improvements here in the coming year. And there's kind of an interest locally and seemingly across the central Perkiomen region in some economic development possibly. So that's a little further off perhaps, but out there on the horizon. Any questions?
Questions for Don? Frederick? Anybody? So so it seems like a lot of emphasis on walkability and trails. What's the driving factor? Is it just a policy thing from the supervisors? Are they getting that request from their residents? I mean, what's pushing for such a strong focus on that? Not that they shouldn't, I'm just asking why.
So there's certainly support at the supervisor level, which without that support, I don't know if they'd be making progress in that. But there's also, I think, considerable support from the community. I'm just looking at the map, you can see that they've got, these defined village centers where there's some, ability to walk around, connect up some businesses. There's sidewalks that are sort of growing. There's quiet residential streets where people are comfortable walking in the street because there's, through traffic. But there's limited ability to get between the homes and the businesses, the homes and out to, Perkiomen Trail, which runs right there by their community, but they just can't quite close those gaps.
Yeah.
So it's so close that a lot of people, I think, are starting to ask, why can't we just close that gap?
I really think the Perkiomen Trail, I mean, it's over 20 years. But people, having those trails through communities change people's view of walking places. And I think that's when people start saying, well, we just can't do it. It's dangerous, it's whatever. And slowly you see places that you would never think. But that sidewalk in Spring Mount was one of them. I mean, clearly they had one municipal use here, one here, it was like 200 feet or whatever it was. It was a lot of money, as I remember, to get from one place to the other. But it really changes the way people function. And then they say, wow, we can do this. And I think being outside, walking has become a predominant way for people to connect, exercise, see neighbors, experience their environment in the past 25 years, really immensely.
I really believe that.
Yeah, and this is a community where they go from people only wanting to sit on their back porches to people sitting on their front porches and saying, oh, we might be able to go someplace else. And I think that makes a big difference.
Have they had any developments, or what you call it, a hot conversation topic on either solar or affordable housing development?
I've not heard a lot of discussion about affordable housing as a structured program. There has been discussion of just housing prices, with new developments generally coming in, near the top of the market.
Yeah.
And that being considerably higher than, some of the existing housing stock. Where you've got a lot of small homes, a lot of old homes. And I think they're mindful of that contrast. And so it has not yet reflected in priorities to adopt policies, but they are thinking of, how to accommodate more variety in housing types in new development. So I expect that to be a part of the conversation in this village mixed use revision process. I'm sorry, the other question, solar. I think they're generally supportive. It was updated a while ago. It could be updated again, perhaps if there are new standards. I think that was a bit before my time. They were, eager to get it.
Any other questions for John before we move on? Great, thanks, John. See you in 3 years.
I've got other communities to see.
Next up is our annual inventory reviews and anything in Austin.
It's the Austin chapter. I'm here.
I haven't seen it.
I usually know I'm here. Is this one? Yes.
Morning, Austin.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, everyone. All right, everyone. Today, my name is Austin Mosby. I'm County Planner 2 here at MCPC, and I'm going to be talking about our 2025 inventories. I guess I make the slides go. Okay, so for anyone who is new and hasn't seen this presentation before, what are our inventories? Our inventories, we keep track of 4 different things in 2 categories. We have residential, which keeps track of our age-restricted and multifamily and single-family attached developments, and non-residential, where we track our shopping centers and business parks. For the residential, the single-family attached we track subdivisions of 10 units, 10 dwelling units or more, and for the multifamily, any development with 10 units or more. So starting off with residential, this is a picture of Benjamin Court. That's a subdivision of attached single family that was completed in 2024 right here in Norristown. As I mentioned, 10 dwelling units or more. And for the age restricted, the way we count that, we include age restricted independent living units, including those within the CCRCs, the continuing care retirement communities. We don't count all age restricted. We exclude nursing homes, boarding homes, personal care or assisted living developments, and developments that were still under construction. They're not included in our inventories. This presentation covers everything that was completed in the calendar year for 2024. Starting off with the age restricted, there were no new developments. There were 267 single family units added in 3 existing age restricted developments, but nothing outside of those 3 that were existing, and no multifamily for age restricted. For the non-age restricted multifamily and attached houses, there were 11 new developments. That includes 4 multifamily developments and 7 attached housing developments, 7 new subdivisions. And these are those 11 new residential developments. And the municipalities where they're located. 2 were in Montgomery Township. These are the 267 units of age restricted in the 3 developments. So here is the Regency at Waterside, Potts Grove Hunt, and Del Webb North Penn. This is a map of all of the age-restricted developments in the county. There are 41,000 age-restricted dwelling units across 129 developments. And this is a,
What's considered age restricted? Is it 55?
is it 60? No, it's 55, I believe it's 55 and up. Am I correct, Anne?
Yes,
That's the
there are
legislative.
some communities that are 62 and over and some that are 55 and over.
Right, but
But
this captures
This
55.
captures all of it,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you, Anne. For the multifamily and attached housing developments, I highlighted the ones that were added in 2024. So you can kind of see the spread.
Doesn't know Lisa one right there
Yeah, there's like a cluster down here on the eastern side, and then out as you get more towards the northwest. You see the clusters there.
I see most of them were contained in the Bridgeport development. Is that was the largest concentration?
Regency of Waterside.
What's that?
It's Regency of Waterside.
The Regency at Waterside is
That's not age.
that's
are
age restricted.
developments, not units.
I know what.
They're not units, they're
This
developments.
is just now
Yeah.
identifying developments.
I can tell you all
That's true.
about Regency at Waterside.
What's that, Jonathan?
That's Jonathan. He said he can tell us anything about.
I can tell you all about Regency at Waterside.
Is it a nice place?
Okay.
Beautiful.
Moving to non-residential, these two photos. This is the East-West Narden Business Park. They had one new addition, this right here that's kind of cut off. It's like a tree business. And then this picture on the right is the Willow Grove Shopping Center. They had a new addition there of some stores, and those are those stores. For the non-residential,
That's not, it's the shopping center next to the Willow Grove Mall, right?
it's across from Willow Grove Park on the other side of Moreland Road, yep. So for shopping centers, there were no new shopping centers built in 2024. But two shopping centers had additions. It's 26,680 square feet added to the inventory. Business parks, there were no new business parks. But two business parks had new additions, adding just over 8,000 square feet. And those two, the two business parks were East-West Narden Industrial Park and Marlboro Business Park. And for the shopping centers, that was Limerick Plaza and Willow Grove Shopping Center. And those are located here, just Willow Grove Shopping Center had its additions and Limerick Plaza. Limerick Plaza added McGurk's. And the Willow Grove Shopping Center added some new stores that you saw in the photo. And our business parks, these were the two business parks that saw new additions. The one in East-West Narden, I'm sorry, the one in Marlboro Township, that just added a big warehouse. And just some trends based on like all of this data, looking at the different developments. We're seeing, as you saw in the previous presentation about the housing construction and the units built report, there's a slowing down of residential development in the county. Marked reduction in the number of multifamily developments we're seeing. And increase, well, proportionally, it's like the single family is kind of taking over, whereas the multifamily used to be the dominating development in residential.
You're seeing that based on trends in 2024, or you're seeing that based on trends you've seen in half a year of 2025?
In 2024, referring to the data of 2024.
Which is why perhaps there were fewer multifamily units that we are reporting on here, but we previously discussed this with David's presentation. There's more to come, more multifamily.
And this is a post-boom dip, so I'd recharacterize that as single, I would say detached is not moving multifamily
Right.
out. It's just there was a little bit of resetting
Right, it's
backlogs.
probably a timing issue,
Right, they're not.
you know, just
Yeah. Yeah.
you've had a dip in what's been completed, but there's still more to come in there. It's just-
Right. And some of it will be age restricted. We've got a big new addition at Shannondale that's underway. Reserving spots for all of us in the future, so there is surely.
For the shopping centers, there's two interesting trends. One we talked about in previous presentations is the experiences that are kind of taking over where traditional shopping retail used to be. All of those empty anchor stores where you used to go to buy clothes are being repurposed. Examples include Legoland Discovery Center at Plymouth Meeting Mall. And Ann told me Netflix is soon coming to King of Prussia.
A new building, or are they going into
In the
something?
mall, Netflix house.
It's like Legoland for adults. who like to work.
And
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah, you'll go in and there'll be like a area set up as a particular Netflix show that you can go into and experience.
And you watch it with other people?
They are gonna have a movie theater in there.
I've not been invited to the
Yeah.
grand opening.
Sounds awful.
Instagram.
Yes, a lot of Instagram of,
Yeah.
sounds like.
I guess,
Huh?
Stephen, you're not the demo, you're not the
You're not the
Democrat.
demo.
Yeah, a non-searchable person.
Just stay focused on the Shannondale.
Right, look. Stay in your lane. That's right.
I'll go with it.
I did not expect you guys to enjoy this so much.
I'll tell you, man, they should have an adult Legoland.
Really?
That would be great.
They should, I mean,
Well, there's a new,
like Legos are, and
it's
sorry to go.
become an adult thing.
Lego is now the new model making. You know, when I was growing up, it was the Revell models
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
Lego
And,
has, I agree.
you know, now Lego is really captured into the model making
Mhm.
for adults. I mean, you know, I bought the F1 car and I
Right,
spent.
they bought the White House and the
Yep.
Chrysler
My
building.
brother has some of them. They came out with a $1,000 Death Star
Hmm.
Lego model here a week ago. The largest show ever.
Still trying to figure out how to get the $850 Millennium Falcon without my wife banging
Oh my
out now.
God.
So, but anyhow, it's just, I mean, I used to make models and now my model making is buying Lego sets. You know, that take several days and, you know, keep me concentrating on that and not having to talk to anybody. So they stay right in my lane.
We're gonna bring you some Legos for the meeting.
Anyhow, but yeah, I mean, I think the experience stuff is what's gonna be the driving factor in a lot of these malls.
Well, I can't resist but sharing. Now Scott has seen it, but if you've been in the Franklin Institute, I have a model of Center City, Philadelphia built out of Lego there.
I've seen pictures.
I built that. Yes, it was my high school senior graduation project.
Whoa.
And it's been on display since 2007.
Oh, that's impressive.
Back when I was dreaming of becoming an urban planner.
Oh my God.
And while I've got your attention on that, did anyone notice I put together this nice template for our 75th anniversary? I didn't find one made of any MCPC stuff, so I tried to put one together that we could
Did
possibly
Anastasia
share.
get upset?
Was that?
Did Anastasia get upset?
No, but I'm very proud of this template, but anyway.
Hey, Austin, I just noticed it as I was watching. That looks good.
I spent too much time on it. Before our multifamily, trends in shopping centers. The other is multifamily development coming to existing shopping centers. We're seeing the apartments going up where there used to be just strictly commercial. So examples are like Plymouth Meeting is having multifamily going up. Bala Kinwood on City Avenue is the name of the shopping center. Down there, they are having multifamily going up. Suburban Square, Lower Marion Township, and Pavilion, which is that shopping center in Abington Township.
Yeah.
That's shaped like a horseshoe with the Acme. That's recently been,
Convert the offices into apartments?
I think,
No, the recently constructed housing.
Oh, the apartment building that
Yeah.
was finished.
Mhm.
Oh, nothing new,
Not the worship.
but nothing newer, just
No.
that, yeah, I got you.
yeah, Pavilion, they are having the apartments going up there. But that is my last slide.
Great.
Any questions about these inventories or checks?
How long did it take you to make the Center City, model?
That's the number one question I get about that. It's so hard to say because it kept growing. So when it was first at the Franklin Institute, when it was first introduced, it was only about the size of like this surface of this podium. But every few years I was invited to go back and add to it as like new skyscrapers would go up in the city. The most recent addition I added was in 2022. I included some of the development that's along the Schuylkill. And so they like to keep it current, and so when people come to see it that have seen it before, they see it kind of grows and reflects.
So how big is it? I haven't seen it. I would go to Franklin.
Just there, I wish I
If
could.
we were going from river to river, like the Delaware would start here and then the Schuylkill is like all the way over here. And then it
You get
goes
credited.
a little bit
Did you
of,
get credited?
yes. You get a check? No, but I did get a great grade on my graduation project in high school.
Good.
Thanks, Austin. All right, Marley. Let's see what's going on in the Horsham. Besides the fact that the patio, right, is that what it's called in the office park? They have that outdoor event space on the weekends. You know what I'm talking about? No, it's they call it the patio, I think.
Oh, the patio, yeah.
I've been
Yeah,
here a
the
couple
office
times.
part, The office part.
They have food trucks and a beer garden.
Yeah.
Yeah. People bring their kids, which I don't understand.
Because they should be at home playing pleasures.
They're all walking. It's
Yeah,
okay.
oh.
Steve plays with the Don't worry, they're all walking.
What's that?
They're all walking.
I know, Marley.
All right, well, morning, everyone. Yes, I'll be talking about Horsham Township. They renewed a planning assistance contract with the county, the first of this year. This is a renewal. The last contract, was to write a new comprehensive plan for the township, which was adopted on July 9th of this year. And so I guess that the last contract was to develop this comprehensive plan, and I have one copy at least I was gonna pass around, like look at here. And I wanted to first say what a group effort this was. Matt Lubitz worked on this project with me for the first 2+ years, and Julie Guarna was the graphic designer. The design section was instrumental in the focus areas chapter, as you'll notice, and just so many volunteers helped with our open houses and a lot of stuff behind the scenes. So yes, and one of the graphics Julie made for me was this great context map. So here's Horsham Township. It's 17 square mile home rule township in the northeastern corner of our county. A really significant border with Bucks County, so I feel like they get a lot of influence from the Bucks side as well. The turnpike just skirts outside the township on that southeastern corner, so it's not directly in the township, but definitely influences why the main business park is there in that corner. And then Route 309 just skirts inside the township on the southwestern corner, and just crisscrossed by other major state roads like Limekiln Pike, Horsham Road, Welsh Road. So the existing land use map you can see better. So again, the turnpike just skirts down the outside the southeastern corner, and that's where their largest business park is. There's additional office and industrial parks along Horsham Road. But it's still pretty predominantly residential, single-family detached residential, of various lot sizes being the most common. But 13% undeveloped is pretty significant, and the biggest chunk of that being the former Naval Air Station there in the center of the township. So a little bit about their comp plan. We're really proud of the community engagement that we were able to do. We had 2 online surveys with 1,522 total responses. The first survey was the more substantive survey, and that one actually got 1,297 responses, the first survey, which was the second most responses we've gotten on any municipal comprehensive plan survey. And, we do a lot of those. So it was second only to Cheltenham's survey, but I like to say that in terms of percent of residents reached, Horsham was higher. Throughout the planning process, we had articles in the township newsletters. We had outreach booths at 6 community events. So we were at Horsham Day, National Night Out, Farmers Market. And we also had 2 comp plan specific open house events with over 110 attendees. You can see some examples of the outreach posters and feedback we got at those events. So here's the snapshot of the comp plan, which is going around, but it's pretty hefty. It's organized into 12 chapters, and there's a detailed appendix of all of that community engagement results.
Did you say they adopted it?
Yes, July 9th. So just a few takeaways from the comp plan. The future land use plan, of course, is the most important tool coming out of the comp plan. And this was really meant to reflect maintaining the diverse residential areas, maintaining it's very important to them to maintain their employment areas, the office and light industrial areas. And there's also a major emphasis on all of the recreation and open space, like maintaining the golf courses that they have left. And there's also an overlay of Greenway corridor that corresponds to the riparian corridor conservation district we have. We did have a mixed use redevelopment overlay. It represents the Village Mall area on Blair Mill Road and the mixed use core of the Business Park District, where they would like to target a mixture of uses there. And then the Naval Air Station, we left as referring to the adopted redevelopment plan there. Of course, local comp plan can't change what's been adopted for the future land use vision there at the federal level. So more about that in a minute. Another tool we created was the existing sidewalk network and walkability analysis map. I started this analysis, well, it was first inspired by Lower Merion's comprehensive plan, but I've done it for Plymouth and Upper Gwynedd and now Horsham. So it inventories existing sidewalks, existing trails, and then identifies like walking destinations. So public schools, public parks, commercial corridors, the library, trail access points and bus stops, and then kind of a walk shed buffer around each of those. So anywhere that there's not a sidewalk, where there's a sidewalk gap within those walking buffers, that might be where you'd want to prioritize. Don't waive sidewalks if something comes in and you've identified it as being within one of those walk sheds. So that part of the comp plan recommendations is to keep this map updated and consult it when reviewing land developments or going for grants. I'm also really happy with this map that Julie made for the plan that shows all recreational amenities at township owned parks. So instead of just having a map of the parks and then saying, you know, there's 10 playgrounds and 8 basketball courts, like this really shows you graphically throughout the township where these different amenities are, and really she made all of these icons that really help you understand the diverse amenities there. And then I wanted to talk more about the focus areas chapter. So this is a step in the township comprehensive plans that I've done, that after working with the steering committee, going over all of the data analysis and recommendations for each individual topic, like transportation, economic development, sustainability, housing. Then talk to the steering committee about what are some smaller geographic areas or corridors where we should take a deeper dive. They're like mini master plans where we go back and overlay all of those individual topics and get more specific recommendations for smaller geographic areas. So Horsham identified 7 focus areas, and I won't make you listen to me talk about all 7, but I wanted to highlight 3 where they are focusing on implementation and seeing development already. The first one is Prospectville Village. This is at the crossroads of Horsham Road and Limekiln Pike. This was historically a small village in the township, called Cashtown originally. But now it's developed more as a mixture of residential and commercial, but there's Regency at Waterside is just just to the north of Horsham Road here. So there are definitely a lot more residents and interest in making this more of a walkable village or mixed use area. So that, see, it's on the next slide. This is part of the township's focus because they are already working on a major intersection widening, road widening and intersection improvement project. But this would include completing the full sidewalk network on both sides of Horsham Road from Limekiln Pike to the municipal complex. As well as adding a full traffic signal at Horsham Road and Davis Grove Road, which would make it easier for Regency at Waterside residents to walk down here. And just to have a crossing there can really open up the walkability of this area. So one thing, one opportunity we identified was with the road widening. It appears that this property would have to be demolished, and there'd be open space left over that was identified as the potential greening and gateway parklet opportunities. So Barry and Kevin worked on this concept design for that corner, which I think has that on people's radar. That could be a definite improvement here. The township's also exploring village commercial zoning here. It's currently just zoned general commercial, but there are a couple of large properties that are available for development. So we're taking this opportunity while we're making these walkability improvements, and there's this land available, maybe we should be changing the zoning to be thinking about the type of development we'd like to see here. So this is a very kind of like conceptual build out that their engineer did, thinking about that. So looking at a combination of townhomes and small commercial. They use the Fairland Village in Lower Gwinnett as kind of a example of development. Moving forward. Another focus area where we're seeing activity is Maple Glen. The Horsham side of the Maple Glen Triangle, where Limekiln Pike, Norristown Road, and Welsh Road all crisscross So 3 PennDOT roads all crisscrossing here. And this is kind of an older commercial area. Some buildings date back to like the 1950s, so it's kind of starting to feel tired. As redevelopment has occurred in this area over the last 20 years or so, the township's been using the PennDOT's plans for the areas to require developers to put in improvements like turning lanes, crosswalks, sidewalks, the street trees and street lamps. The township has like a set pattern, streetscape pattern that they require developments to put in. But the recommendations are to complete that. You can kind of tell which properties have been improved already. This corner, the Wispus Bank, and this one with the CVS, and then I forget which bank is over here. So for the comp plan, we looked at the properties in between that haven't redeveloped with those improvements, and kind of illustrated 2 levels of intervention. So the one on the left looks at, even if the building stayed, what improvements could we make if they looked at sharing their parking, like opening up their parking areas in the back. Maybe we could eliminate a couple of driveways, get some parking away from the front of the road and put in the sidewalk, trees, more greening. And then on the right, we said, okay, well, if all these buildings go away and we're able to consolidate the lots and really develop this area as more of a master planned little village, what could that look like? And when you zoom out, the kind of importance of this becomes more apparent that on both the Upper Dublin side and the Horsham side, there's 2 large townhome developments coming in. Does anyone know the status of the one on the Upper Dublin side? I know on the Horsham side, it is under construction. Houses are up. But that's, of course, several hundred new residents in the next few years that could, like we're hearing elsewhere, like there's this increased demand for wanting to walk to places to grab your Sunday coffee or something. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's more momentum to make this village something more walkable and attractive in the near future. Lastly, we have the former Willow Grove Naval Air Station. This is a very large property that divides Horsham in half, basically. It's in total, it's over 1,000 acres. And it's been a Naval Air Station, military property since World War II, I think, and been growing over those decades. But in the early 2000s, the Navy declared it surplus, and they started the redevelopment planning process. That redevelopment master plan was adopted in 2012, and everything was going along fine. And then the PFAS contamination concerns were really elevated, and redevelopment was put on hold. They addressed all the groundwater and started a remediation process. So that was definitely the major thing we heard throughout public engagement of, what's happened to that plan? When is that property? Something going to happen there? Can we at least get the roads through the property to reconnect our communities? Yeah, it's definitely on people's minds.
Do they have a timeline?
Well, there's some momentum on this Friday. They're announcing transfer of 100 acres, but I don't know which 100 acres that is, but it seems like for a while, the hope was that the whole property could be transferred at once, but I think that there's a shift towards at least give us the clean parts so we can start doing something. There have been 2 small transfers over the years. you see A right here was 11.3 acres of land that was transferred for the Hallowell Elementary School. And then more recently, down here at B, that's 9.6 acres of land that was transferred to the township, and that kind of expands upon their Wayne Avenue Park. Those were both properties on the other side of Easton Road that were never, they were just acquired to expand their like crash zone, you know, to prevent development, so they were always clean. I also feel like where I have like number 8, there's a big chunk of land here that was just for the landing lights. So that shouldn't be too contaminated. The western end is pretty wooded still, like, and that's developable, but that's just still ongoing.
Derelict buildings.
Yes, we've had to inventory all the derelict buildings, remediate, you know, old buildings, lead paint, asbestos, whatever's in there.
Buildings along Eastern Road are really starting to show up there.
Yeah. I think one was torn down recently, yeah.
Yeah.
But the township, in the meantime, had been doing a lot of transportation planning, like preliminary designs of the internal roads, thinking about roundabouts for the intersecting roads in the middle of the base. And they also recently built a traffic signal at Moreland Avenue, which is number 6 here.
Because Commonwealth's not in, is Commonwealth on the Commonwealth Golf Course down there?
Oh,
It's not on the naval base, is it?
No.
I'm a little where the perimeter is.
yeah, no, it's right down here, like where you see all these blue ponds, that's.
But to the right of that, it looks like, what's that? Oh,
The original master plan included a R3 golf course. I think it was
well, that's what I'm
9 hole.
saying there. That's what I'm wondering,
yeah.
how did that get across the river?
Early 2000s, I guess there was still a market for golf, and that's one of the things they're having to rethink now.
That's what I was
15 years
thinking, how
later.
did Commonwealth go across the street, you know?
So for the comp plan, we wanted to acknowledge this, but we knew that we weren't changing anything about the master plan, but wanting to kind of overlay, well, here's the land use master plan, and here's where the township was thinking the roads would go, and where new traffic signals are going, and the land transfers that have been done, just trying to bring everything, all the background information up to date. So yeah, there's a snapshot of current conditions. There's a huge runway and taxiways in the middle of the site. The township did just adopt an official map as one of their early steps to get things rolling again towards redevelopment. So it sets aside land where they anticipate having the open space, the larger open spaces. There's still land set aside for school district use, trail easements, they wanted to leave room for those. Water tank, wastewater treatment plants, those sort of the public infrastructure, they're laying the groundwork for that. But the vision is still something like this. The plan calls for a range of housing types, mixed use town center with big central plaza, gathering space. They want a business class hotel conference center and major employment office spaces. So that's what we're working on.
Timeline.
2050?
Yeah, that's like 25 years.
So I'm saying 2050.
Yeah.
Can we get our invitations to be?
Yeah,
It'll be incremental, but
It's such a huge impact on a community where you feel this uncertainty. I mean, it's really tough to plan for it, isn't it? Or no?
I mean, it's 13 years of planning
Almost
already.
40 years. I know.
But, and just the event this Friday, which I apologize if you see me squirrely typing here as things coming in right now. I think the governor's gonna be there, and our commissioners have been invited to speak, so we're gonna put some talking points together. But anyway, it should be a pretty noteworthy event.
Any other questions for Marley? Bob, Jonathan?
That wetland, that is pretty.
Oh,
No questions.
comment.
Marley, how much of?
I thought you had a comment.
It's a question. I don't know the answer.
Ah,
How much of the township is still not on public water and sewer, and do they imagine expanding public water and sewer to maybe more areas? Let's see, trying to put together snippets of information I know, but they expanded their water treatment plant a few years ago in anticipation of the air base, like they're trying to plan capacity for that. So they do have capacity, and I think all new developments have been put onto public water and sewer, and they've been working to
converting people.
yeah, they're helping convert people who have PFAS contamination in private wells to public water. Yeah, we didn't identify any major concerns other than the PFAS, but like
who's the authority? Is it?
Horsham Water and Sewer Authority.
What is it?
Horsham Water and Sewer.
Oh, they have their own.
Yes.
And that covers whole township?
It covers the entire eastern half, and then the western half where it's still less dense. It's not fully covered, but it's like currently not fully served, but
Right.
it would. I think there's some partnership with Upper Moreland as well for that eastern side due to the topography of the sewer.
Any other comments on the project? Thanks, Marley. All right, director's report.
Yes, thank you. Thank you everyone for getting us through. I thought this was gonna be a too tight agenda, but great job by all the presenters and the board. Staff news. Like to welcome our newest staff member, our senior environmental planner, Tim DeShepard. Getting that right?
Yep.
Tim just started Monday. He comes to us from over a decade's work as the municipal planner for Middletown Township in Delaware. And before that was an environmental planner in the private sector, graduate of Towson University undergrad and University of Delaware for your master's.
Joe Biden Institute.
There you go.
Walking my way to his home state.
So he'll be working under John Lesher and as they take over everything from Drew this year and
Thank you all.
openings, we still have a senior transportation planner, which since it's been 2 months since we last hit, we did have that position filled and it was rescinded before the person even started. So we had to start over on that search, but have several great candidates looking at now, so have news on that. And as well as our administrative assistant position, we're filling in the departure of Anne Marie this summer. Retirement, I should say. That's it on staff news. I do have one solemn note that I do want to share for if anyone hasn't heard. Phil Smith passed away unexpectedly, although his age is 72 or 73, I forget. Phil, many of us know well, his work in advocacy and open space and trails is so well regarded that we actually gave him a planning advocate award at the Montgomery Awards just in 2023. Right. And we saw, some of us got to see him this summer during the Montgomery Awards tour for a nomination there in Lower Frederick. So his impact, I can't even begin to sum, but obviously will be greatly missed. And we thank
He
him.
was an unbelievable workhorse on these projects.
Yep.
He was both tenacious, patient, but absolutely dedicated to maintaining energy to get these projects done. I used to tell him he was a gadfly, but he was our gadfly. And he did remarkable work, even real hands-on. I mean, trail building, trail clearing. He and Gail put money into conservation easements, buying properties. It was a full life of conservation after his teaching career at Norristown. So a remarkable person.
He did so much outside of his professional, I didn't even know that he was a teacher for some time until
A
recently.
sculptor.
Yeah. back to our board events. So next month is our annual board tour. So exciting thing, but also different for your schedules. The meeting will still be on October 8th, the second Wednesday as usual. But we'll be gathering at the North Montgomery Technical Career Center, getting all the details on that. But the start time of the event will be 8:30 a.m., so a little earlier, with arrival between 8 and 8:30 for getting settled. We'll be seeing a bunch of great sites. Again, we'll have the bus go around, get off a few times, and we'll be exploring the North Penn Commons, the new North Wales Cultural and Arts Center, which Montgomery helped fund, and also looking at the current planning efforts with the Upper Gwyned's Parkside main park. I don't have a name in front of me. The Castle Park is what I call it.
Right.
But anyway, a lot of activity going there.
With the Leathers parking,
Right.
the Leathers playground being redone.
And our design section is doing a lot of work toward that project, planning project. So anyhow, it will be great. We're really aiming to keep a tight lid on the agenda. So hopefully we'll be back at the center, Career Center at 12 for lunch, and then have a short board meeting. And even though the agenda says 1:30, I think we hope to get you out closer to 1. Anyway, so looking forward to that. ULI Housing Exchange, just this week, I participated in part 1 of that activity. I think I told you about in Pittsburgh in June. Part 2 is in Philadelphia. It's a gathering of about 30 professionals from various backgrounds, from developer to government, talking about housing supply issues and affordability issues, to generate a white paper through the Urban Land Institute at the end. This particular mission, I'm actually leading a walking tour of TOD development in Ardmore Friday morning. So looking forward to that. I'll report back. Learn. Monco 2050 updates, the comprehensive plan, a couple events on your events calendar. This week we have our final Pizza with a Planner, I believe in Collegeville, 4 to 6 at Troubles End Brewery. And then we get into the big events, a webinar on the 25th to really present the draft goals and visions at that. And then an in-person event on September 30th at the Ambler Theater to both, again, present that information and also celebrate where we are with the plan, as well as celebrate our 75th anniversary, which is this year. The logo was on Austin's thing. I went to our design staff. I love that. So we'll be using that and highlighting that anniversary over the next several months and at this event. Great to have been around for that long. Although none of us were here in 1950. So finally, we also are going to be have an exhibit on hand at Design Philadelphia, which is a celebration or recognition of the work that landscape architects do. So Patty has been putting that together. It will highlight some of the several projects that in recent past that involves landscape architecture and our agency has done. So we'll share more of that as the exhibit opens in October, and Patty will share that. And then beyond that, again, it's a lengthy events list. Lots going on, and there's even a few things that probably even aren't on here. But I'll let you explore that. Thank you.
Any parting comments from anyone? Thanks, everyone. We're adjourned. See everybody next month. Sorry. Thank you.